Hey guys, today we're going to finish up the debt side of the operating model, and then we're going to be done with the model, the financial statement model. So pull up your model, and I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see. Okay, so as you can see from our balance sheet, we haven't projected out our current portion and whatnot. So what we need to do is that first we need to link up our old balances there, and we're going to project out our current portion of long-term debt. Now, essentially what current portion of long-term debt is exactly that. The portion of the long-term is considered current when we're going to pay it off within a year. So this is an amount that we're going to pay out within a year, and it accumulates depending on how much the company says it will get or whatnot. And the company actually tells you how much is it going to accumulate. So what we need to do is we need to go to our 10K, go to current portion, and yeah, right here is the amount that we need to look at. Oh, sorry, it's going to be page 49. Let me see if I correct current portion of long-term debt. There. And basically, these numbers tell us that, okay, these are going to be an amount that they're going to pay out in the future. So we're going to put in 164.1. Then we're going to put 232.2. Then we're going to put 296.4. And then we're going to put 26.6. And afterwards, we're not going to put anything because we don't have any prior information on what exactly is the current portion going to be in the future. Alright? We can obviously straight line this, but the point is that you can project this out in different ways. Okay, so now we have to reclassify our debt, which means that essentially put a negative sign in front of it. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so now discretionary pay down borrowing of long-term debt. Basically, whenever you're paying down whatever extra cash you have left, did you pay that down with your loan? In this case, we couldn't find that number, so we're just gonna leave this blank. And typically, that's the case. So your long-term debt is essentially, we're gonna link this up from the balance sheet. You're going to see long-term debt there, and we're basically going to take this amount and add that amount and this amount, because both of them are going to be negative, and then we're going to just project it out like this. So we're done with our long-term debt. Now our convertible debt, so we're going to link this up from our convertible debt right here. I'm going to project it out there. And then we're going to, well, discretionary pay down again, are we paying down any convertible debt? In this case, we don't have any money, so we're just going to do that and just copy it down. So that we just projected out our convertible debt. Calculations of short-term debt. Okay. Cash at beginning of the year. So what we're going to do, we're going to go all the way up here to our balance sheet and get our previous year's cash equivalents. Okay, so we're going to project that out there. Okay, and then we're going to add our free cash flows prior to the debt. So essentially, we're going to take this amount, this plus that, plus put some, and we're going to add all this amount except for our debt. Again, reading the title says what is our cash flows, our free cash flows before debt, which is this. Press enter, go all the way down. You have that. Now, less minimum cash balance. So we roughly estimated that 2% of the sales is the minimum cash balance that the company wants. So what we're going to do, we're going to take our sales, we're going to press F4 to pivot it or anchor it, and then we're going to go to our, actually, didn't do this the right way. There, anchor it, multiply by our revenue. So our revenue is going to be this number, And as you can see, that is our minimum cash balance. So total cash and available and debt required for short-term debt payment. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this number, and then we're going to add this number, and then we're going to subtract this number, and then we're going to add. I think we're going to I think we're going to add this number. Well, I think it's subtract. Let me see. It's going to be subtract, and then we add any discretionary pay downs and add any discretionary pay downs, and we get this. Let me see if that's the proper calculation. And it's actually subtract. Yeah, subtract. Sorry about that. You're going to subtract out. Oh, I did subtract it. Awesome. So that is our amount. Now we're going to bring our short-term debt down, just like we did with our convertible debt. There. Copy it down. Now we're going to essentially take this amount. We're going to put a max function, basically saying that this minus this, if that is less than 0, then it's just going to be 0. But if that's not the case, then it's just going to be kind of like that. Okay. So now we're going to link up all this amount to our debt. So we're going to link our current portion from our current portion. Okay, our short-term debt from our short-term debt side. Just that. Our long-term debt over here, and our convertible debt, which is 0. There. Okay, so now we're going to take this. There. Awesome. Okay, so we're done with all of our debt. Now we're going to project out our interest expense. So what we're going to do, we're going to bring up this amount again from our balance sheet. And typically, these are same. Basically, these are typically together. So we're just going to do that. Copy that down. Well, copy that down. Go all the way down here. There. Okay. So our total debt is basically the sum of all of these debt. There. And our interest expense is going to be, well, interest expense we're just going to get from our income statement over here. Okay. Copy that. So we have our interest expense. Now, keep in mind we haven't projected our interest expense, so we can't really copy, paste, and all the way down here. No, we have to figure out how much interest expense should there be on this debt for the next couple of years. So what we did was we're going to create we're going to find our interest rate, and the way we're going to find our interest rate is essentially we're going to take this amount and we're going to divide it by the average of the debt right here, and we're going to get 4.5. Okay, so that's what I did. I basically took this interest rate divided by our averaged out our debt, so we can find a fair interest rate that we believe should be it. So essentially, we're going to straight line this interest expense rate down like that, and now we're going to take we're going to average out the debt again. For now, we're going to do it for this year and that year, and then we're going to multiply it by the interest rate. So we get that, copy it down. So we just got our interest expense. Now we can link this up from our top table over here. Okay, we can do this. And now we have our interest expense. Now, you might see something weird going on with your table or with your model. What happens is that you're going to have a REF divided by 0, which means a reference error, or number sign reference error. And essentially, you have a reference error because think about what we just did. We just projected our income statement without our interest expense. Then we projected our balance sheet. Then we projected out our debt. And from our debt, we found our interest expense, and then we circulated it. So what's happening is that whenever our let me give you an example. If our interest expense increases, our net income decreases, our cash flow decreases, our balance sheet decreases, our financing increases, and our interest expense increases, and that means our interest rate increases, our net income decreases. So you see that there's a circle there. So we need to make sure Excel does not freak out, because sometimes Excel freaks out and then it blows up your model. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a circular breaker. And basically what a circular breaker does is it kind of gives Excel a break. It kind of flushes out all those errors that's thinking that's making, and then we're going to turn off the switch, turn off the breaker, and you'll notice that everything is back to normal. That's if you run into those problems. Sometimes when you just have the iteration option open, typically you don't have that, but just in case if you do, because this happens all the time, especially in the LBO model, we have to kind of be prepared. We should prepare ourselves for it. So we're going to make a circularity breaker. Okay, then we're going to put off equals 0, on equals 1, and then we're just going to put a yellow box over here since we're going to type this number in. And what we're going to say, let's just say this is 0, so it's off right now. Let's just say that we're going to put a if statement in here saying that, okay, if this number, I gotta go up there, if this number equals if this number equals 0, then it's going to be G249, right? But if it does not equal 0, then you have 0, okay? That's the rule that we're putting in here. Make sure you anchor this point because this is going to be a fixed point there. And you're going to copy that down. You notice nothing has changed yet, but see what we're going to do. Now we're going to turn on our circuit breaker and see what happens to interest expense. It turns it to 0, because what we just did, we're basically saying that this is 0. And what we're doing, we're flushing out those errors. And now we're going to turn off our circuit breaker, and you'll see that in my case everything is back to normal, but in your case maybe those reference errors are going to disappear. And if they do disappear, the last thing you have to check to see if your balance sheet is finished is to see if your balance sheet balances. If your balance sheet does not balance, do not freak out. That just probably means that you probably miscalculated something. It's not a big deal. But if your balance sheet does not balance out, don't worry. But you know you are done with and you're done with the great model once your balance sheet balances out. Okay? And let's just say that if it doesn't balance, what do we need to do to figure out where do we mess up? Typically, you probably messed up a formula. You probably subtracted the wrong way. One way to find out where you made a typo error is by finding the change in your balance sheet and comparing it to your change in your cash flow, right? As you can see, and if it does not match, that means you made an error over there on that particular cell. And once you correct it, you'll be fine. Other than that, I don't find any reason that it should not balance. Okay, so yeah, that concludes our video for the operating model. We're going to hold a boot camp going more into detail about this model and our DCF and our comps. But our DCF and comps should be less complicated due to the fact that majority of the numbers are going to be coming off of the operating model. So, alright, well, I'm going to catch you later. Bye.